there? Just stand to the side of it, you're on video. Smile. Okay, so we've got one angle in a triangle is double the smallest angle. So Richard's just given this one the smallest angle, he's called it x. This is double the smallest angle, so it's 2x. And the other one is 5 more than 4 times the smallest angle, which he's written 5 plus 4x. Can you write that a little bit better so we can see it properly? Has anyone got any questions on that? Alright, who can tell me the next line? Alright, Jonty, you can sit down now. Richard, good work.
So
what do we do now?
What I did, I wrote 5 plus 4x plus 2x plus x equals 180, because that's the sum of the angles of a triangle.
Perfect.
And then I joined it all together, so it's 5 plus 7x equals 180.
Yep.
And then you can just solve the equation. So you minus 5 on both sides, so 7x equals 175.
Yep.
And then you divide 175 by 7, so x equals 25.
Now, is that the answer? No? Keep going.
So then what I did, I labelled all my angles x, y, and z.
Alright, I'm listening.
So then I did y, and I just filled it in.
Yep.
So match the equation. So I did y equals 2 times 25.
Yep.
And so then y equals 50.
Yep.
And then for z, I did z equals 5 plus bracket 4 times 25 bracket.
Yep. I'll write it like you're telling me. Keep going.
Yeah. And then I did z equals 5 plus 100.
Which is?
105.
105. You can go straight to your calculator on that. Okay, so Jonty's labelled them all x, y, and z, so he's called this one like y and this one z. Either way, but you've got to end up with 3 different angles because the question said find the size of each angle. You want all of them, all 3 angles. So once you find x, you don't just stop there going, great, I solved my equation. You've got to go back and read the question, check what you've done. So our angles are 25 degrees, 50 degrees, and 105 degrees. And how would you double check that if you had time at the end of the test? Zach?
You would plus all those together, so it equals 180.
Yep, and check if you add all those up whether it gets 180. So the key to this question, Zach, put your mask up please. Key to this question is they're telling you about a shape, you draw it, and to get the question started once you've done what you can from the information is to use something you know about the angles in a triangle to start you off, and you know that they add up to 180. Does anyone have any questions on that? No? Okay, we're going on to the next part. We're still in this same topic. Is there anyone still on the left with the question? Okay, you can write down this next heading. Okay, copy the question down. So we're doing equations and formulas. So the whole reason that we're learning equations is so that we can solve them. And an equation in real life becomes a formula. So I know some of you, I've been talking to Miss about careers advising, and I know she started to speak to Year 10, and I know there's a few of you in here that want to do engineering. And if you want to do engineering, you have to do first year maths at uni, which is just like extension 2 maths. That's how hard it is. Right, that's the level for university first year maths. So you're not going to get into engineering so that you can do first year maths if you don't at least do at a minimum 2 unit advanced and hopefully extension 1. Okay, so if you're thinking of doing engineering, which is a really good degree to have these days, because it's a really good problem solving degree. So even if you don't get a job in engineering, you can still get a job in a lot of different industries that want good problem solvers. Okay, and they know that if you're good at maths, they know you're a good problem solver. Okay, so that's what it's for. So the formulas will be coming into all your sciences. Physics particularly has a lot of formulas in it. Okay, this is a pretty ordinary looking formula, finding the average of 2 numbers, but they've given it to you. So we're going to start with the formula they've given you. Alright, don't go and create your own. If they give you one, use it. Alright, now we're going to sub in what they've given us, and we're going to find what they've asked us for. Connor, what are we doing?
So you just write, so it's just a substitute for A equals 28.
Yep, the average is 28. That goes in there. Keep going.
And then can you just write 13 plus N over 2?
Now you can put the 13 in for either M or N. I would more likely put it in here because it's a nicer looking thing to solve.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter, you can do it the way you had it with 13 plus N over 2 if you want. Alright, everyone keep going and solve that equation. And then we're copying down the next one. Alright, we're finishing off number 1. Okay, Ryan, tell me what to do now. Times them both by 2. That will leave you with M plus 13 over there. Continue for me.
56 equals M plus 13.
Continue.
Then you minus 13 on both sides.
And you get
And you get 43.
43, and it's just a number, this one, so that's your answer. Has anyone got any questions on that one? No? Okay. Alright, so some of you might have seen this before. Who's seen this in PDHPE? Do you remember it? Do you have to learn it? Probably not. No. So if they want you to use it in PDHPE, they'll give it to you. It's B equals M over H squared. It's used for body mass index. So we're going to start with the formula they've given you. Okay, now really read the question on these. Alright, the maths exams are becoming more wordy than they used to be in the HSC, so you really need to read things carefully. So when you're looking at the M is the mass in kilograms. So if they happen to give you the mass in grams, you'll have to make sure it's changed to kilograms before you use it. Okay? And H is the height, and the height must be in metres. So if they happen to give it to you in centimetres, you'll have to change it to metres before you put it in the formula. Lucky for you, this already is in kilograms and metres, so you're fine to put them straight in. So let's go. Just put those numbers in. Let's see what we get. Anyone still over here on the left? If you get part A finished, you're going to do B. And again, when you get to part B, we copy down the same formula and use it carefully. Off you go. Right, is there anyone still needing question 1 on the board? Okay, that's a pretty easy formula, but we'll just go through this one as well. Alright, so just going through the first body mass index question. Toby, let's go.
You could be 72 over 1.85 squared.
1.85 squared, good.
Yeah.
And what did it end up being?
21.03725347.
Now, it says 1 decimal place. Did you do that?
Yeah, and 21.0.
21.0. Anyone got any questions on that one? So make sure you read everything in the question. Generally though, with the rounding into decimal places, if you're in an HSC question, they will never mark you down for rounding. They pick one question to mark rounding on. They just go, this is the one I'm going to mark it on. If you don't have it, you lose a whole mark. But the rest of the paper, they don't mark rounding. Okay, so don't get too caught up. If you're in a hurry in a test, don't get too caught up on doing that extra line. Might be the one they mark though, so just be careful. Cody, fix up your mask for me. Alright, so let's look at this next one over here. Nixon, what do we do?
So start with the formula, B equals M over A squared.
Yep,
And then I subbed in 24 instead of B.
good.
And then it was M over 2.1 squared.
Yep. Now what do we do?
Times 24 by 2.1 squared.
Yep.
Which equaled, I'll just do it again so I get the full decimal number. Which equaled 105.84.
105.
0.84.
And you had to still round this to one decimal place.
So M equals 105.8.
Good. Does anyone have any questions on that one? Some of you might want to work out the 2.1 squared first. That's up to you. But you should still end up with the same answer. Alright, anyone still on the right hand side of the board? Okay. So make sure you do write your formula down that they gave you and just use it, and then you're doing part B. Off you go. Start with your formula, keep going. And then we've got one more to do on these before we move on to the next thing. Right, anyone still over here with part B on the left hand side? No? Feel free to move if you can't see around those desks. Okay, so we're looking through question 3. Jack, 3A, what's the formula?
S equals D over T.
Keep going.
I don't have a calculator, so I won't be able to get
Just,
the
no, but you can sub in those.
substituting. S would be replaced with 87.2,
Good.
and T would be replaced with 5.
And
You would leave D up the top.
continue.
Then it would be like 87.2 times 5. On the
Good.
left, equals
And
D.
I'll let someone else do your calculator work for you. You should have your calculator here. Lachlan.
436
And on the end?
kilometres.
Because it's distance. Make sure you've got your units there. Anyone got any questions? Okay, Shaban. B. Formula?
A over S equals K.
No, we're using the formula as stated. So what is it?
S equals variance.
Okay, keep going.
650 over 91
650.
over 91 equals
Okay, hang on. You're trying to sub into a formula that you've changed already. Can we just go straight into this one at the moment? So 650 is your distance that goes on the top. Tell me where everything else goes that I've put here.
so S is 91
Good.
and then 650 over 3.
Okay, now what do we do?
You move to 650.
When you've got a letter on the bottom, what do?
Switch.
You swap it. So tell me what we've got.
91 T equals
No, because these things just swap. So now what does it look like?
T equals 650 over 91.
That's better. Have you done that on your calculator?
Yeah.
What's it say?
7.142857 143.
28.
57143.
Okay, whole number. Nearest whole number.
7.
7. What? What's the T? Stands for what? Time. So it's 7 what? Units?
Minutes.
No? Have another look.
Hours.
Hours. Right? There's no minutes mentioned, is there? Right? So they told you back here in the original part of the question, T is the time in hours. Can you see that? Okay. Anyone got any questions on that? All right, now this is the hardest one. So start with your formula, write it down. You all know that's the surface area of a closed cylinder, one that's got a top and a bottom. All right, now we're subbing in what they've given us. So what are we putting in?
Let's go ask about B.
Go
If
ahead.
it says like one decimal place, like 7.1, do you answer in like 7.1 or do you put it into like time, like the hours and minutes on the calculator?
Okay, firstly, it said nearest whole number, so you okay with that?
Yeah.
So
like,
we've done.
if,
So your question is what?
if it's like to 7.1, if it's like to the nearest one decimal place, do you leave it in that or do you put it into minutes and hours?
No, if it just said correct to one decimal place, you would just write 7.1 hours.
Yeah.
Okay? Any other questions there? All right, back to this one. So subbing in, what do we have? Adrian? Subbing what we know.
Oh, the radius is 9.
Right, so you tell me exactly what I'm writing here, starting at the left.
1,255.38 equals 2 pi times 9 squared plus 2 pi times 9h.
Times 9.
H.
H, okay. I've written exactly what Adrian told me. So far, so good. Now, let's not ruin it. What should we do now? All masks up, please. What should we do? Anyone else tell me besides Lachlan? We're going to do the easy things first, all right? Darcy, what do you think?
I'll do times like 2 times pi times 9 squared.
Let's do that. Stop there. So off you go. Go to your calculator and tell me what that equals. Did you type that in? So I'll just copy the left-hand side while you're working that part out.
508.938.
508.
Yeah.
Keep going.
0.938. 0099.
99.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do you think we should do?
Then do the then do plus 2, like work out 2 pi times 9.
Good. Off you go.
Equals 56.
Say it again. 50.
6.
Yep.
0.54. 86676.
776. And on the end of that we have
A H.
H. Right. We're just solving this equation for H, aren't we? It doesn't matter how horrible those decimals are. We can still solve it. Now, at this point, I'm just going to write in what else you could have done here so you'd avoid writing all the decimals down. So you could have had just done 2 times 9 squared on your calculator. Leave the pi out of it. Who can tell me what 2 times 9 squared is? Work it out. What is it?
Is it 162?
162. Then you could have left the pi on the end. Plus, and you could have done the same here. 2 times 9 is what? 2 nines. 18. Keep the pi there and write your H on. Now it depends how good you are at maths which of those 2 lines you do. Right? Hopefully you'll be able to do that one because you won't have to write all the decimals down all the time. But if you don't get what I just said, then you're going to have to write it like that. Okay, so at the moment I'm going to take it from here. I'll just continue in red so you can see I'm going from there. But if you wanted to, you could go from there, and if you're stuck with that, I'll come back to it. Alright, so in this one here, even though I've left the pi's there, our only letter is H, because pi is a number. Right, so the pi, well, I'm going to just treat as a number, because that's what it is. So what can I do to solve this now? What's my next step? Not Lachlan, because he's answered everything. Yep.
You can add 162 pi plus 18 pi.
No, I can't do that.
Oh, 'cause that's
Right,
an
so
extra.
I don't, so if you're going to tell me that, I want you to do it like that.
Yeah.
Because then you won't look at that, you're not going to tell me to add those 2 numbers there, are you?
Pardon?
If I had this, are you going to tell me that's 8x?
No.
No. You can't mix the letter and the number terms together. Right, so if you're having trouble with that, I'd rather you write that down that I've got in black. So you don't do what you're about to tell me. What should I be doing, Noah?
You could do 162 plus 18 plus 2 pi times 8.
I don't know what you're doing there, you're
I don't know,
confusing
you can't
yourself. Alright, looks like we're getting confused. Maybe we should just deal with numbers. Nixon.
Can we do 162 plus 18?
No. Okay, maybe we should stick to the black. What do you think?
1,200.
No, you're doing, I don't know what you're doing. Oh, you're talking about this bit here?
Yeah, 1,255.38
Okay, keep going. Yep.
minus 162 pi.
Perfect, okay, you do know what you're doing. And take it all back. I'm wrong, you're right. Okay, keep going for me, Oliver. What's over here?
And then it's 18 pi h.
Right, who understands what just happened there? Who doesn't? Be honest. Okay, if you don't understand what just happened, I want you to just do everything in numbers. Right? If you understand that pi is a number, you'll know that we're going to keep our letter and move our number with the pi in it there to the other side. That's what we've done. Now, I'm not even going to work that out because I can't be bothered. Who can tell me the next line? How can I get h by itself now? Zach.
It would be whatever that number is,
All of that? Yep.
over 18 pi.
Over what?
18 pi.
Over 18 pi. Now you can do it in your calculator. Do the whole thing. Press your fraction key first. Put all that stuff on the top. Down arrow. Put 18 pi on the bottom. Press equals. Write your whole thing down, and then you're rounding to 1 decimal place. Is there anyone who still needs the rest of this in the middle? Now, if you can't handle what just happened, if you think you're going to make a complete mess of that, you're going to do everything in numbers. All right, which means you would move this number to the other side and subtract, and then you'll divide by this big decimal here. Okay? Work things out as you go. All right, who can tell me what the decimal is off the calculator? Kobe, read it out.
13.1999925.
Is he right?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going for me. We're going to 1 decimal place.
Equals 13.2.
13.2 what?
13.2. Yeah, centimeters
Surface area
squared.
squared. Any questions? Oh no, sorry, it's height. That's my mistake. Okay, it's a height we're finding, so it is just in centimetres. Any questions? Okay, you're going to write this next heading down. Now, I'm not doing any notes on this because I did the notes on this in Year 9. Alright, so I have told you to keep your workbooks from Year 9. The notes are there. So we're trying to get through it a bit quicker now. Alright, so we're just going straight to the examples on each of these. Richard, mask up, please. We'll start with an easy one. Right, put your hand up if you're still over here on the right at all. Alright, so I want you to just underline that. It's why we're making the subject. So Y is going to be our letter, and all other letters are treated as numbers. Okay, so we have to get Y by itself. Alright, starting us off, Peter. So we want to eventually end up with Y by itself. What's going to be gone first? No, that's your best friend. The X. Okay, so let's circle it. That's going first. Let's go. What have you got on the left?
So 2y
On the right?
equals 5 minus x.
Perfect. Okay, so we're taking the plus X to the other side. We've got minus X over there now. Okay, next step. Toby.
When you see the times, no, 2 times y, and then you take that over the other side, would be 5 minus x over y.
Excellent. Well done. So we're going to divide by 2 over here. We'll take the whole side and divide by 2, and that's your answer. Right, you've now got the Y by itself. Y is the subject. Any questions? All right, they're going to get harder. Get ready. Now don't forget what we're doing. Y is your letter. Y has to be on its own. Off you go. So keep it on the right. If you know what you're doing, you can start the next one as well when you finish it. All right, Connor. B.
I'm not sure that
No, have a look at it. You're going to get Y by itself. What has to disappear?
the 5.
The 5. How are you getting rid of it?
Do you like bring it over to the left or to one side?
That's right. So we're dividing here. If you want to go to the other side, you do the opposite, which is times.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me how you want to write it over here.
Do you like to put the fraction in a bracket and put like something?
You tell me exactly what to write. Don't say do you. Just you tell me what to do. Go. I'm going to write what you tell me.
So just write m over 3 and then put that in a bracket.
What do you want to put in bracket? The whole thing, or?
Yeah.
I'm just doing what Connor's told me at the moment, so don't write anything just yet. Keep going.
Then we put 5 on the outside.
Like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going.
And then
is we do 5 times m and 5 times 3. Alright, Zach, why is that wrong?
Because you don't need to do that. You're
So,
gonna
what have we got to do? You tell me.
M over 3 times 5.
Well, that's what he said already, and he's right on that bit. Keep going. So you want to be multiplying all of that by 5, don't you?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So it'll be 5m over 63.
Well, that's what he told me. Connor told me the exact same thing. He said 5m over 15. But I'm telling you there's something wrong with that. What's wrong with it? Dean?
It's just 5 over 3.
It's 5m over 3. Now, if you listen to what I say every time I talk to you about this stuff, you don't really need the bracket there, so I'm going to remove it. Right, now let's have a look. When you write a whole number down, or something that doesn't have a denominator, you should be lining it up with the top of a fraction. I always tell you that. Right? So 5 just is multiplied by the m. Now if you want to write this underneath to prove it to yourself why you're not doing the bottom by it, 5 is 5 over 1, isn't it? Times the tops times the bottoms. We got that now? So you're not multiplying the top and the bottom by 5, just the top. Okay, so that's your answer. We might just reverse that because the y really should be written on the left. So I'm going to write it like that. Okay, everyone's going through this on your own. Bit by bit, you're eventually going to get y on the left-hand side by itself. Remove the first thing that needs to go, then the second thing, then the third thing. There's a few things to do here. Let's go. Anyone still on the left here? If you're up to it, you can do that one as well. Right, is there anyone still in the middle? No? All right, let's see how we're going here. All right, Nate, start us off.
Would you take the 2 over, so it's ay minus k equals 2c?
Good. AY minus K equals 2C. You multiplied by the 2. Perfect. Keep going.
And then it'll be ay equals 2c minus k.
No.
2a plus k.
Plus K, the opposite of minus K. Yep.
And then it would equal y equals 2c plus k over a.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions on that now? See how we're getting rid of each thing gradually? Okay, good. All right, so you're going to do this one here, then copy this one down. And when you get to question 2, the variable that's going to be the subject will be in brackets. I'll show you what I mean on this first one. That's the subject, B. Have a go. Is there anyone still copying B and C down on the right? Now, B that I've just written on the board is tricky. Be careful. If you're not sure, do as much as you can. I'll come back to it in a minute with you. All right. Joel. D.
So you take away the square root and take the left hand side.
That's the first thing, yep.
Squared, so x squared equals y over k.
Good.
And then you take away the k and it becomes k bracket x squared bracket
You don't need any brackets.
Oh,
And over here,
y.
y.
And then you switch it around.
And we're going to switch it around. So y equals kx squared. You could have said y equals x squared k. Just make sure that squared's above the x. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Could you take the K away? Because I did the K first and then turned out the same thing.
Well, did you take the k away first up here?
Yeah.
Right, you always got to work from the outside in. So we're going to do work from the outside first. And the first thing you see on the outside is that square root sign. That has to be removed first. Okay, so if you ended up with the same answer, you've done 2 errors to get yourself into the right spot.
Yeah.
And if the marker spots it, you won't get any marks.
Yeah.
Okay, so be careful. All right, what happens over here? Luke,
So you move the a squared to the other side.
perfect. What do we got?
B squared equals c squared minus a squared.
Good. Get rid of that first. Excellent. Keep going.
And then can you square root it?
You can. Tell me what to write
So
though.
it's root. No, it's just
So on the left you have
b
B, and on the right you have,
is c
I'm listening,
square root.
C
So
square root.
Square root c minus a.
So tell me exactly what I'm writing.
Square root
Yeah.
c squared minus a square.
And where does the root go? All the way across?
Yeah.
You're right. Did anyone do it like this? You can't do it to individual terms, it's wrong. Okay, so when you do anything like that, if you're not sure, do it to the whole side in one go. And you can't go any further than that. Did anyone take that to C minus A? No, good. That's your answer. Okay, we're looking at this one, which is tricky. So we've got to get that letter R on its own. So what are we going to do first? Maxim?
I did 4 over 3 times V.
Times what?
V on the left side.
So did you take just the 4 over 3 over here?
Yeah.
So what did you write on the left?
I wrote 4 over 3 times V.
So you haven't done anything different then, have you? So you've looked at that, seen that, and you came over here and you still times by it.
Oh.
You didn't do the opposite, did you?
So it would be 4 over bracket 4 over 3 bracket.
No, I think you're a bit confused. Who can help him out here? What's the let's just do this slowly. What's the opposite of times 4 over 3?
Opposite of 4 over 3, 3 over 4.
What's the opposite of times?
Oh, divide.
Divide. Let's just break it down to basics, boys. So the opposite of times is divide. So let's have a look. If I write V divided by 4 over 3, because that's what I'm doing, right? Takes it away from here, it's gone. We're going to write this now. Now, that looks like a bit of a mess, I know, but we will tidy it up. There is a 1 in front of this V. if you get your calculator and do 1 divided by 4 over 3 on your calculator and press equals, what fraction does it give you? 3 over 4, right? So what you actually end up with, Maxim, not the way you had it, but upside down. So it ends up being 3 over 4v. Alright, then we've got this. Okay, who can tell me what's next? Lucas, what do you think? What are we getting rid of now?
The 5.
The pi, good. So at the moment you're timesing by it, so where is it going to go when we move over here?
Does it go next to the 4?
It does. Now before I get to there, I might write this like this first, because it'll make it a little bit easier to see what to do. Can everyone see what I've done there? Just slide them together. This V should be lined up with the top. I didn't write it very well, did I? I should have wrote it a bit further up. Right, slide them together. It's 3v over 4. Now, when we do this, Lucas, tell me what it looks like when I get rid of that pi.
Oh, is it 3v over 4 minus pi?
No, not minus pi. The opposite of times pi is
Oh,
divide
divide.
by
So 4 is divided by 5.
divide by pi. So there's your division. You just write your pi down there. So it just slides into the bottom. Told you it was tricky. Any questions so far? All right. Last step. Shaban, what do you think?
Cube root.
Cube root. So what are we writing?
Cube root 3v over 4 pi.
Yep, you just put it around the whole fraction and that's your answer. Now let's reverse the whole thing. You cannot simplify it, don't try, that's your answer. Any questions? So it's a bit tricky when you get to those ones because there's a fair bit to do. So the only way you're going to get these things right is if you know your fractions work in your algebra really well. This is where it comes back to get you. All right? You right?
Why does the V go up?
Because if you just look at V on its own and you want to make it a fraction, you do that. Right? So it doesn't matter what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at 7 and I need to make it a fraction for some reason, I do that, don't I? Okay? So you can do it with letters, you can do it with numbers. Okay, anyone still on the left-hand side here? Alright, keep going, we're trying the next one. There's a couple of ways you can do it. Do it whichever way you're comfortable with. Off you go. All right. Anyone still in the middle here? Okay, you've got 2 days to do this homework. Alright, so the first part of the homework is one more word problem. problem. Second part is equations and formulas. You should find that easy. And this last one is the changing the subject. But I've given you the easier of the ones to do because I want to do a few more examples on that next lesson. Okay? Now, I had 2 people email me telling me they'd problems with the homework with the 2 questions I did write out. If you're having trouble with something, I need to know in advance. So just send me an email and tell me which questions they are, okay, so I know. Because some of these can be a bit tricky as we go through them. Right, you can pack up once you've got that homework done. I'm just going to go through this last question here. Okay, who wants to tell me how they did it? There's a couple of versions. What do we got?
So you take the minus go to the other side to be s plus 2 equals 180 times n.
Who did s plus 2 first? You're on your own. You can't take a little bit out of the bracket. That's a locked box there. You can't just go rummaging through the box. It hasn't been opened yet. Dean?
You do S over 180.
You can do that first. This is not the only way, but we can do that. We can look at that outside bit. You okay with that, Toby?
Yeah.
You can look at that outside bit and do that first. What do you want to do now, Toby?
Take the 2 over.
Now you can do it. So what do we got?
S would be s minus, no, plus 2 over 180.
You can't just throw it up the top there. I want you to think about your numbers, right? If I'm doing that, can I just throw it up the top and make it that? No. So you can't do it here either.
Yeah.
So keep them separate. What do we got? S over?
S over 180 minus 2.
Right, say it again.
Minus 2, oh,
Plus 2. You cannot get them together. Right? But you can get them together because the back of the book's probably not going to give you that answer. They'll go, well, you look at that and look at your denominator. Common denominator, what is it, boys? 180. Keep that. What are we doing over here, Toby? Timesing by? To get that denominator?
times by 180.
Yep, and on the top?
Times by 180.
So what am I going to write up the top?
360.
Plus 360. So that's how you can write it. Did anyone do it by expanding the brackets first? Okay, so if you did that, it would have looked like this. So it doesn't matter which way you did it, you still would have got the same answer as long as you didn't make any algebraic errors along the way. So either one of those. Any questions? Okay, we're just waiting for the bell. That's just the young ones that have gone.